Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Stockholm Tech Meetup. My name is Tyler. I'll be your host, and it's a joy to see everybody again. We've got a really fun meetup planned for you today. Some very special guests. Before we get into those, as usual, if this is your first time, I always start off with the news, so I'm going to jump into my deck here. And let's kill the funky music. Before we get into the deck, I have to thank all of our wonderful partners, EY, Visa. EY, you know, is a big accounting firm, but they also help startups meet with investors and do business consulting of all kinds, and their fundraising. Just wonderful partners to have, and which startups might not normally think of, but they should. And if you need any help with that and you're in the Nordics, I'll connect you directly. Visa, everybody knows, they're one of the biggest fintechs in the world, and one of the original big fintechs, you could say. And they also love startups. And that beep I hear is my buddy Ash, who's going to be joining us shortly. So hold on for 1 second. Let's see. Hey, Ash. Hey, buddy.
Hey, Ash.
Hey, man. Hang tight for a second. I'm just going through the news, and then I'll get right to you.
Hey, man.
All right, just mute your mic, and I'll be right back with you. All right. After Visa, we have Esri there, one of the biggest geodata companies in the world. Capole is a fantastic consulting company. If you're doing B2B and you want to address enterprise companies, they have this inside track on how to get in with all of the good enterprise companies in the Nordics who are most of their clients, all the really big companies. So if you're a startup and you want to be selling your product or service to the big enterprise companies, Capole is who you want to get in good with, and I will happily connect you. EQT Ventures is a fantastic venture firm, one of the biggest and one of the biggest now in the Nordics, but also one of the newest big funds. And again, happy to connect you there. NASDAQ, everybody knows. If you, when you're ready to list, that's where you want to do it. Happy to connect you there. Although I can't help you with the listing myself. You're going to need some bankers to help you with that. The Swedish Energy Agency loves to invest in young companies who are doing cool stuff in energy. Vinga is the big best law firm, but they love to work with small tech startups, and they have a real passion for that, and they have their own special team internally who handles that. So I would be happy to connect you with them. And Nordea, again, likewise, is the biggest bank in the Nordics, which everyone in the Nordics knows. But we have a lot of audience members who aren't from the Nordics, so you might not know Nordea, but they're like the biggest bank in the land. And they also have a real passion for startups and working with companies. And they even invest in a lot of startups even. So if you feel like you need to connect with them, let me know, and I'll happy to connect them. So thank you to all of our partners. And we go right into the news here. So we are live at live.stockholm.tech or stockholmtech.com. And you can let your friends know so that they can follow along. And we're also streaming live on YouTube, and there's a live chat feature, and I already see a couple of people have put in some thumbs up in the live chat thing. If you have any questions at any time, you can put it in the comment section, and I will see it, and we can ask our guest it live in real time. And here's the news. So Brinja's app will make the construction industry safer, takes in 10 million, and Adnavum wants to digitize maritime transport, raises 35 million. But then we had some spectacular fundraisers in the last month. Northvolt raises 14 billion, and if you check the date on that, it says July 29th. And then just 2 weeks later, on August 17th, it looks like a typo, but it's another new announcement. $1 billion loans for Northvolt, and the reason that they've actually now raised $3 billion, and a lot of it now in the last month, to build their fantastic battery factory to make the batteries for the German car industry, so that they can compete with Tesla, which is where Peter came from. coincidentally. And congrats to him. That is now one of the fastest growing companies on the planet, and for a fantastic cause, and couldn't be happier for him. Other kind of big trends happening is the number of new venture funds cropping up. And you notice by color segment, this kind of rainbow chart, the blue ones are the smaller funds, under 25 million, which is considered a small fund. And then the green ones also under 100 million, kind of small. And that's where a lot of the growth has been in the last 5 years. You notice the bigger funds over 500 million haven't really increased that much since 2014. And that's a lot of these smaller funds that have grown over the last 5 years and actually look like they're continuing to grow for the next 5 years, partly thanks to things like AngelList and other tools that make it much easier to create these funds, actually. And that's a very good thing for everybody. So another kind of interesting trend that has jumped out is, as Benedict Evans revealed on his blog, the e-commerce had a huge spike as much of the world went into lockdown, of course, especially in America, where you couldn't go out and buy things, in brick and mortar. So you had to order everything online. And essentially the US and England jumped from 15 and 20% of all kind of commerce being e-commerce. And those numbers have now jumped up to 25 and 35%. So a full third of commerce is now happening online in the UK, and about a quarter of commerce is happening online in the US, and those spikes are aiming straight up. So it's kind of no surprise to see this headline a week or so ago that Amazon is now officially opening in the Nordics, being based in Sweden. And I know, I think a lot of Swedes have been waiting for that. It's kind of exciting. It will certainly drive a lot of competition, if nothing else, in the Nordics for pricing and speed of delivery and everything else that Amazon's known for. So that's fairly big news. Another kind of big trend that has happened as a result of the virus is QR codes, which have been around forever, of course, but and no one could ever figure out why we ever needed these things. And now we have actually very good reasons for using these things, because people don't want to touch each other or anything else when there's viruses involved. So QR codes make this touch-free world rather simple. And here's a great example. Apple's working on QR code payments for Apple Pay, so that you can do very touchless payments, ubiquitously everywhere, as has been happening in Asia for many years now. But it's nice to see it'll be going global. And then you have just today, a few hours ago, Instagram announces that they're going to be doing everything via QR codes now, as are tons of other apps. So if you have an app and you've been on the fence about integrating or utilizing QR codes, then now might be a good time. Another big macro trend, and this is actually a really complex conversation, but it's this mega battle. And one way to look at it, and one of the ways that I look at it, is this battle between the US and China. And this is kind of how it started. And it kind of started with Huawei. And this kind of fight for control and data. And now that governments understand the importance of data, of course, China has always understood that. And it seems like the US is recently just sort of figured it out. And so has been, banning, starting with Huawei. But now Huawei has had their chips banned, and the US is telling chip manufacturers globally that if your chips use US technology, that US technology and those chips can't be sold to China. So now Huawei says it's running out of chips for its smartphones because of these US sanctions, because Taiwan is part of one of the big chip manufacturers, and the US and Taiwan are being very friendly, because Taiwan and China are not that friendly. And so that's becoming a very big problem for Huawei and some other Chinese hardware manufacturers. And of course, China's not going to take that sitting down. So now Apple is now in the crosshairs in China, in a sense. So as this article came out today from the information, Apple's China loopholes are starting to close. And what this is a fantastic article, and what it's touching on is the fact that Apple has always had a very special, exclusive arrangement with China, where any other big company, American company, or any company that goes into China has to do a joint venture partnership with a Chinese company and a transfer of technology and intellectual property. And Apple's been able to avoid that because, one can assume, because they do their manufacturing in China, which creates, untold thousands of jobs. So that they get this big exemption from needing to reveal their code base. As it turns out, they've never revealed their code for iOS or anything like that, like where anyone else would have had to. And now that's all starting to change, as the article says. And here's an example, again, from today. Apple removes 47,000 games from the Chinese App Store. And this is the beginnings of, now much more closer attention is being paid to this relationship of China and Apple as a sort of, safe to assume it's related to the tensions that Huawei are having reciprocally. And now one must imagine the conversations at Apple must be very concerned about where they're going to be producing. I know some of Apple's producers are now looking to be based in other countries in the region. And it looks like Apple might need to do that just to hedge on the possibility that they're not able to produce in China anymore. And in fact, Trump might just say you can't produce in China anymore. And so who knows? It's a crazy world, and that's not China's only crazy really huge headache going on at the moment. Just in the last few days, one of the very biggest apps in all of the Apple ecosystem, Fortnite, is now no longer, kind of going to war with Apple in a sense, and saying that they don't feel it's fair to be paying the 30% fee that Apple charges all of the apps in the App Store, like all the games and Spotify and everything else. And Spotify has been very vocal about they not liking that either. And so Spotify is supporting the Epic, who makes Fortnite, in this cause that they're fighting for. And it should be noted that what Fortnite and Epic are doing is not just asking for themselves to be removed or exempted from this 30% tax. They want everybody, all developers. They want a renegotiation on behalf of all developers, and they're not willing to settle for just themselves getting an exemption. They are kind of taking a moral position that this is for they're standing up for everybody. The tens of thousands of developers, hundreds of thousands of developers and app makers in the App Store. They want a sort of a complete change and renegotiation on behalf of everybody. And like I said, kind of interesting moral position. They're not willing to take a win if it's only them who's going to benefit. So that's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. In the last day or so, it's appeared just today, it seems Apple has completely blocked them out. So has Google, by the way. And Apple is also now revoking their ability to even keep the existing game in the App Store, so that it's going to be a really interesting battle. So that one is interesting to watch. But back to the Chinese point, this tension between the U.S. and China, India is sort of jumping into this, app battle as it is. We're banning 59 Chinese apps, including TikTok, WeChat, and Hello. And what this kind of leads to is this, and of course the U.S. then, the obvious next move here is the U.S. is banning TikTok and WeChat being one of the really absolute biggest apps in China, which is fundamental. It's not just a chat app. It's essentially its own small internet. It's a Swiss Army knife of 50 different functions, which is hard for non-Chinese app users to even imagine. But it really can do everything from finding a babysitter and selling your car and real dating and your finances and everything. In fact, it is one of the most popular payment mechanisms as well. So anyway, in doing this blocking, here's what's interesting about this is China, of course, has banned a lot of apps from the beginning. And now India and now the US are doing that. And what that creates is this: China has essentially their own internet. And the rest of the world, in essence, has the open internet. And now that is essentially changing, as the New York Times article says, I think again today. Trump's attack on TikTok and WeChat could further fracture the internet. And what they're talking about is this jeopardizes the nature of the open internet as we've always known it, because the internet is this sort of international agreement that everything is open to everybody, regardless of what country they're in. That's sort of the beauty of it. And China's always had this kind of unique, what they call a net nationalism, where they have their own internet, and it's a nationalistic internet. And now if a country like, of course, India, it's, up to them if they want to block Chinese apps, but now they are curating their own internet. And essentially, America is too, by blocking TikTok and WeChat, as the New York Times article says here. But it's a slippery slope in essence, because who's to say we don't like some German website tomorrow or some Swedish website next week or whatever, and countries start banning each other's websites. And then you have a very fractured internet, and it's no longer this big global potluck feast that we've always known it to be. And that can get very, very strange. And it leads to the sovereign cloud. And what this is about is countries are starting to realize, like China always has known, that they want to control the data, essentially, of what happens in their sovereign territory. So countries are very familiar with sovereign territory of their land and their borders and their immigration and their airspace, of course. And now they realize that the cloud, in essence, also needs an immigration and sort of passport controls and control of its airspace in terms of what goes in and out in terms of data out of your country. Because if TikTok is in the US, it's essentially an arm of the Chinese internet that is, hanging above the US airspace and able to suck data back into the Chinese internet. So countries are now deeply investigating this, and I happen to know that Sweden has decided in deep discussions about having their own Swedish sovereign cloud, where all Swedish taxpayer-driven services like Skatteverket, Trafikverket, all of these government agencies, Migrationsverket, they need to be on their own sovereign cloud, which Sweden is now in the stages of constructing, so that they have control of that data. But it goes further than that, because if a Hungarian app wants to come into Sweden, or let's say maybe a better example, Vietnamese, or I don't know, a Russian app wants to be in Sweden, Sweden might say, okay, but we want you to use that app must use our Swedish cloud so that we have full access to all of the in and out and control of the data and all the users' data, because after all, that user data are Swedes, who, Swedish citizens' data, essentially, and we want to be able to control that, and Russia shouldn't have access to it at all, even though it's a Russian app company. So that's sort of a preview into how the internet might be shaping up in months and years to come. I haven't, honestly, this is, I have not heard anyone else really talking about this in this article. Also had to dig to find one that was talking about sovereign cloud. Kind of a crazy idea. But about this, there is an app that is stepping up to replace TikTok in the US and in India, where it was banned, called Triller. And as you see in this article here from Forbes, Triller overtakes TikTok, jumping to #1 in the App Store. And then Jason Ma, I woke up to Triller being the #1 app in the world. And I just wanted to say, I've been hearing about Triller now for, it seems like, a year, even though it's now becoming well known to everybody, because of my dear friend Ash. And maybe you saw this article last month. Ash Pournouri has gone all in on the TikTok challenge of Triller. Can honestly be any size. Snoop Dogg, The Weeknd, and Kendrick Lamar, and Ash involved from the get-go. And they've all invested in this challenger, growing at 3 million new users a day. And Ash is one of my dearest friends, and we're going to talk a little bit more about his involvement in tech and everything. So if you would, please join me in welcoming Ash. Are you there, my friend? There you are, in your office.
In my office.
Yeah, Strand
as usual.
How you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm real good.
You look like you look like you have a nice breeze. I see that plant in the background.
Mattias said the same thing, who's hiding backstage. He'll be coming out right after you. It's actually a fan that's blowing above me. But good to see your well-tanned Swedish summer face. And
yeah, the weather's amazing right now.
But you must have been having one hell of a summer, man. This Triller thing seems to be growing faster than any app in the history of apps because of this amazing demand to replace TikTok. India, I mean, TikTok is obviously massive in America, like the #1 app in America, but it's even much bigger in India, where it's also like the #1 app in India, which is 3 times bigger than America. So yeah. So what's going on? That must have been a wild ride to watch, because you and I were having conversations months ago about, man, wouldn't it be crazy if TikTok got banned, and you were already in Triller at that point, knowing that this could happen. But I have to say, kudos to you, man, because you called this from the beginning many months ago. As usual, by the way, you by the way, are, of everyone I know, I swear to God, you must have a crystal ball in your damn office there, because you have an amazing ability to see where tech is going, a year ahead. So.
You know what? I'm just curious, like you. I mean, it's this in particular is my realm, so it didn't feel like it was. It was a big leap for me to get involved and kind of get to the nitty gritty and figure out that this is something that's actually real compared to 99% of the pictures that you normally see in the field of wanting to launch a social media platform.
Right.
The team is amazing. They're super on it. They're completely understanding of what it takes to actually achieve something in this incredibly competitive space, both considering it's an app, and as everyone knows, to break an app on the charts is a big feat, if it was only that. And then on top of that, it being a social media platform, I mean, I've seen since Facebook and some of the other early ones started growing, you keep seeing 5 a week at least, right? So there's always going to be competitors, and the next one up trying to challenge the existing beasts. So it was quite a big undertaking and a huge challenge. And the reason I was so adamant and so insistent on this being the one was a combination of just seeing where the trend was going, as well as believing in the team. And obviously the ability to navigate the space as well as we've been able to together. I wish I could take more credit than just being an advisor and helping strategically in the background, but the team again is really strong and just super alert.
What I should say that you're a unique person to have involved as well for startups, because most investors have their normal way, but you didn't traditionally come from a traditional tech background. You came from this media, world, and you have this skill for branding and positioning and messaging and marketing and the details and the nuance, and like you've done with Brilliant Minds, the event as well, and you just make these amazing brands that people want to be part of, similar to where Triller's at now. What was it about the first time you saw the deck that made you, hit reply?
I didn't really see a deck at first. The guys who started it were friends of mine. They bought the company and they hit me up, asking me to help them because I knew social media and music, and the app was heavily rooted in music. And I mean, I left music 4 years ago, or over 4 years ago now, but still kept my relationships intact, and obviously the knowledge doesn't just disappear, and the understanding of culture as it is, and as it kind of plays out in other areas of business. So I think a big factor to the success of Triller has been that cultural attachment. It has deep roots in culture, seeing as it was connected to an audience that was really difficult to connect with any of the other apps, as deep as Triller has been able to. And we've just kept hitting that as one big part of an intact part of the strategy throughout. Seeing as it started with, for lack of better words, an urban culture, as it was called, and we kept bringing in artists that were considered to be associated with that kind of culture, and it's not only is it has a kind of trans what do you call it,
Transcendent.
Transcended throughout all these different trends throughout time, and genres moving up and down, but it also is extremely influential in culture as a whole. So that was one of the big factors why I was such a big believer. I just saw that deep grip and deep connection to that demographic, and knew how influential it was, and when everyone was on the same page that was something we should build on, the trajectory was fairly easy to see. Obviously, no, we didn't really plan for or see India
Right.
banning
That was
TikTok.
Kind of a lucky fluke, yeah.
Yeah, but to be honest, we saw how TikTok was facing issues in the US. Like, this has been going on for a long time. Officials in the Defense Department have been very vocal about their concerns around the data sharing or data access, and have been banning the app from different departments. And then, as you've probably seen in the news, Amazon has had restrictions. Sorry, someone called me. I don't know if you heard me.
You're fine.
Yeah. So Amazon has had their reservations. Wells Fargo has banned it from all their employees. Now you're seeing Swedish official companies,
I just read about
like
now Sweden, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not a concern that's uncalled for, or a PR play or anything like that. I mean, we've seen it coming for a long time. It happening so soon in India was kind of a bonus for us, but we always knew that it was going to be an issue. Plus, we filed a lawsuit in Texas against patents infringement from TikTok. Our patents.
Right. Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that were planned for that we knew were gonna contribute to our growth. And to be honest, like, we haven't even started with the main endeavors and main efforts that we've planned to bring to market. So I'm really excited about next iterations in the tech that we're about to offer, and different just innovations in the space, and branching out as a brand that I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
So
because that space, it captures that audience that it's still not known how big that audience is, because TikTok was still growing so rapidly when it got shut down.
definitely.
Crazy.
And you know, I think they're very focused on. I think they're very focused on. You know, their content and optimizing for you know, that offering. Whereas you know, I find it so refreshing to be part of a company that doesn't um, um, you know, doesn't let it be unachievable to go out of their comfort zone and then explore different business models and innovate in the space and branch out and just test out different ways to engage both through the brand and through the app and technology. So you know, all that's stuff that I'm really excited about from here, even though we've obviously you know, the company has already achieved a lot of just impressive feats in a short period of time.
Yeah, it's been a rocket ride, no doubt. But it's also just one of many startups that you've invested in the last, you know, couple years now. And it seems like you're gaining momentum, and I'm sure you will now as a result of this one. So no doubt you'll be able to a lot more chips to play with at the table. Um, but you, speaking of
Yeah.
that, you had the Antler, which you're deeply involved in, had their demo day today. I
Yeah.
think just hours ago. Yeah.
Yeah, it was today at yeah, just in the afternoon. We you know, it was a really now that we've kind of perfected or trying, we're still perfecting, but as we're progressing with the format, it just looks better and better. Considering we can't do physical events quite yet.
Yeah. I was at
But
the
yeah,
last. I
it was
was at the last
right on
demo day, as
time.
you know, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just wanted to say that that has been one of the coolest additions, not just to the Stockholm ecosystem, but you guys are now expanding internationally very fast into lots of different markets. What a cool
yeah.
platform that is, and startups should
Extremely exciting.
absolutely be checking that out. I mean, early stage founders who need help growing their teams. This is an incredibly cool, innovative, and the startups that come out of it are fantastic. And we very often have Antler startups pitching on this on the meetup here, and when they do, they always tend to
I'm glad to
win,
hear.
coincidentally. So anyway, kudos, and I'm going to share the link. Somebody on your team from Antler just sent me the link so that everyone can watch the demo day that happened today.
Yeah, yeah. You can watch all of the previous ones,
Yeah,
actually.
cool.
But yeah, it you know, I think just from what I've seen in terms of, you know, so-called incubators and accelerators, etc. You know, the ambition level and just the respect for constantly improving, I think outbeats any other you know, corresponding program out there. And you know, it's been a, that's also been a huge, you know, that's also a rocket in its own sense, and probably way beyond, you know, you know, the scale that we'll see for Triller as just the sheer amount of touch points and companies that we see at high quality levels is just fascinating. But also it's just, you know, all these companies, you know, you mentioned I'm involved in a lot of companies, I'm going to have more chips to play with, but for me, you know, I just love to help companies and entrepreneurs that I feel deserve, you know, to be successful. And there's a lot of them that come through the Antler ecosystem. So, you know, there's a lot of stimulating for someone like me to be involved with that.
Well, I'm just so stoked for you, man, and you deserve it. And it's any startup would be very lucky to have you involved. So, you know.
Thank you, buddy.
Yeah. Well, I feel lucky.
Appreciate the words.
I feel very lucky myself that we get to help each other, you know, as we do from time to time.
Yeah, feelings mutual.
Yeah, man. Anyway, it's good to see your face. I can't wait to hug it out and go for a long walk when I get back.
Same, man.
Yeah.
Same here.
All right, bud.
Talk to you soon.
All right.
Thank you.
Be good. Okay.
You too.
All righty. And let's go to Mattias. Mattias. Oh, I lost your audio. Are you there?
Hey, yeah, sorry.
Okay,
How you doing, sir?
You're looking good.
That's great to be here.
It's good
to
see
be
you.
here. You're looking repressed.
Yeah, I know everyone's smiling. It's that post Swedish summer, happy glow that everybody has.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
We're getting ready for winter though. It's coming.
Yeah. It seems you've been a little busy. I saw some articles with your names in them, doing some deals, it seems.
Yeah, no, I definitely have. So since March, so I've been investing fairly actively since March, and I've done 4. I'm probably going to do my 5th investment. So, yeah, it's been a good time. I think it's nice to sort of start in a crisis.
Yeah.
When you're building a business, because I left Atomico, as you know, in January, and now, I just got it kickstarted and started investing in March, which was great.
But that is an interesting kind of beautiful coincidence, isn't it? Because as you and like all of the people who have been around the block a few times know, it's like these crises for some reason always seem to be the birthplace of, very successful companies, right? So it's
yeah, that's so true. But it's also the story a little bit of my life in venture. I started in venture in about August 2000. So just after the crash, it was only a few months away. That was my first beginnings, and it was in Europe. And Europe was, people forget, we nuked, technology in Europe at that time. There was,
I heard.
It was nuked. There was when you look at Mad Max, it was kind of like Mad Max, there was just nothing there.
I've heard.
And people were just eating out of, cans of beans, okay, we're going to do this. So it was rough. And I think, to me, I got into this because I love doing it. I love what I do. I love supporting entrepreneurs. I love the ability to sort of change and be part of that change and really be, in a sense, in the shadows of other people doing great things and helping them do that and achieve that. So Europe was quiet. The media was against a lot that was happening in tech, and most people had lost money in tech. And I don't think we really got our mojo back until I don't know what you think, Tyler, but maybe 2012, 2013, somewhere around there.
Because as it got to 2007 and 8, there was another bit of a kick in the pants. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like
which we started where I started my next part of my career, by the way.
So you have your life chapters have been clearly demarcated by tragedy.
Yeah, it is. But those tragedies, those from the ashes, the phoenix rises, right? And I think that those moments, you're doing it because you love it. You're not doing it because you're trying to catch, a train that's taken off and you're just excited to be the train. You're doing it because you want to be here.
Right. It's that beautiful moment where the tourists leave town and the real core passionate people, are still there, and you get to see who's really in it out of pure obsessiveness, right?
Totally.
Yeah. And that is you. I don't. It seems like if you would, can you talk about why Atomico has been one of the very amazing breakout successes, one of the true successes in venture, especially in Europe. It's what a huge kudos to. In fact, Europe owes you, a hug and a high five for helping prove that it can happen. And you guys, more than anybody, have rallied under the flag that America is not, some special fucking magic land where only unicorns can grow there. We can do this in Europe, damn it. And
that's true, yeah.
Yeah.
And it gets up the back of my hairs when you say that too, because when it's such a core part of what I believe.
Yeah.
Still, and I sort of feel, Moonfire, what I'm doing now, is still an extension of that,
right.
But and maybe a new form of it. But Atomico, it was that, yes, we can create $1 billion companies here. And, when we started it, people thought I was crazy, when I was telling them, look, I'm going to invest in $1 billion companies. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
And
where?
And today, what $1 billion companies, I mean, it was crazy. I was just reading the news about Apple reaching 2 trillion, right? So
Yeah.
a billion is really not a big number in the world of tech anymore. It was a massive number then.
Right.
It was an unachievable number
Right.
almost for Europeans. And then now, you know, you have Spotify worth 50 billion. Really, we need to be thinking about, you know, hundreds of billions. And that is really where we go. And maybe 500 billion. And again, these concepts, for us, it's like, oh my God, that's not going to happen. It's like, well, to be honest, if we want to be playing in this game and be part of the sort of what's happening in China and what's happening in the US, we kind of need to move into that zone. We need to move into that zone.
Yeah, you took the thought out of my head. It's exactly, you have to look, you know, far on the horizon and see, well, it's happening there, it's happening there. Why can't it happen here? Is it? But
yeah, and that pains me. Sorry,
I was gonna, but I really want. I've always wanted to know, what is it that made Atomico a success, other than yourself, you know, you and what you bring to it. But what in your mind, what was the secret ingredients?
I think that you know, we were founders investing into founders. There's a, you know, and that was part, you know, we were real operators. People had been there and done it. I think that was really important. So we kind of really believe that, and then it becomes a different conversation with the entrepreneurs and founders. And then, you know, on that, we were like, well, we can help out too. And so we built out a big team of people that were helping out with a whole bunch of stuff. From, you know, really one of the, you know, core areas was recruiting and helping find great people.
Right.
But just building processes around it. You know, like how do you get best in class? And when you're sitting in Stockholm, that's hard to know. You know, because it's not like it's there's a bunch of great companies, but at that time in the beginning too, it wasn't like flowing with information about, you know, how, you know, whereas if you're sitting in the Silicon Valley, yeah, you can pick off loads of people on the street almost and say, hey, what do you think? And they'll give you an idea. And so very federated across Europe, lots of good companies, and, you know, how do we bring it together? And that was kind of our role, to sort of bring the knowledge and understanding together. And then, you know, to continue to fight for Europe and what it stands for, and you know, being a place of innovation. And you know, I still fundamentally believe Europe, you know, and I think it's a truth really, that we were the sort of grandfathers or fathers of modern science. You know, this is where it started in Europe. Many, you know, even you could date it back a few hundred years, but in the 1800s, it really started taking off in terms of how we're building the industrial age.
Yeah.
And I think since the war, we kind of lost our way, and you know, we're now rethinking about, you know, who we are and what we are. So, but I think too that now when people leave universities and you know, they're great engineers, they want to be starting their own businesses. I think that's what they're going for, rather than working for some of the older telecom companies that they used to work for.
Sure. So a lot more swings at bat. Yeah. And speak about where things are at today. Like, kind of looking forward. What is going through your mind when you think of what you call it, moonshot? What is it?
Moonfire.
Moonfire.
Yeah, but it's, you know, it's almost like a, you know, moonshot. But to me, it's like the you want to be the rocket launcher. You know, you want to be the one that's helping get that rocket to be as in the right trajectory as possible, because the slight deviation, and it takes longer to get into space and achieve your success. So we want to help out right there at the beginning. So we're investing at pre-seed and seed. And I think if you look at what happened in the US over the last 7 to 12 years, you know, the seed funds have just exploded, and they've built a massive reputation, and they started to really own the space of seed, and it's become a category really of its own, with first round, Phyllis, Floodgate, Uncorked, you know, the many more that you know very well. And I think that group needs to be formed in Europe. I think we have a few really good seed funds, and I think we need more. There's capital further down. So there's 20 billion raised in Europe in the last 2 years by VC funds. And now we need to make sure that the early bit is going to be just as prolific and exciting and well run, because seed deals across Europe and different parts of Europe, you know, are going from anywhere between $1 and $5 million. So they're bigger checks.
So what if we could help the audience narrow down precisely the strike zone that you're aiming for in terms of who you're looking to work with, is it a wide open field, or are there some constraints on what exactly you're excited about?
Yeah, no, I do have clear sort of areas. There are areas that I've always been investing in and that I've had success in. So fintech, I've invested in Klarna and Climate Corp and other sort of fintech businesses. So I want to stick to that area. I still think there's a lot to do there. Gaming, being involved with Supercell, OBB, Rovio to an extent, and so on. It's I find that area still remains very exciting. Lots to do, and I see, when I look at gaming, I look at it more broadly as well as entertainment, because I believe that most entertainment is going to morph into a form of gaming, because it's going to be a challenge. As we've seen, we talked about TikTok here. I think TikTok is a game to me. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a challenge.
And then. Yeah, exactly. It's a challenge. How do you look good? How do you get seen?
Right.
You want to tell your friends and all that kind of stuff. That's normal in the gaming world. The third area is future of work, and again, that we know is a big area now, right, post COVID, right? But it's an area that I've been really interested in for quite a while. It's accelerated massively, but that includes education, upskilling and reskilling, collaborative tools. And different forms of education and so on. So I think there's a lot to be done in that space.
Well, it's nice that both the games and the future of work have both been uniquely touched by COVID in a way.
Well, the fourth area too. So the fourth area that I'm going to look at is I'm looking at healthcare software tools. So that's really the technology to me that is more in terms of providing that digitization that needs to happen within the healthcare industry. So I'm not looking necessarily at treatment. So there's a lot of money going into DNA sequencing or looking at specific treatments. To me, it just needs a lot more software. And to me, it's a productivity and an efficiency, and that's where we're going to get the big gains, because already in Western Europe, our biggest spend is in healthcare, and as we know, see now with COVID, it's probably just going to go up. And if we can start shaving off a little bit of that cost base to bring that, it's growing at maybe 4% a year, healthcare costs, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it is the biggest component of tax spending. And then if the government, if as we see now, we have negative growth, it's very painful. So if we can bring it down a couple of percentage points, that would be huge.
You're right. So 3 out of the 4, we're all uniquely. So it's just a beautiful timing for you that you get ready right as COVID is affecting those.
It's nuts, because I was planning this last year, and then it's like, wow, you know what? I got into the right areas, and these are the areas that I'm super interested in. But it's also been motivated, but what excites me, and I want to see good, strong businesses that I can see have that longevity, really.
Yep. So I want to do a little quick fire kind of word association. If you could spit back, what comes to your mind on some of these? So what comes to your mind when I say VR?
I just think about the future of gaming and where we take it next. I think about how today podcasts are sitting there, and when we listen to them, they're already in our brains. And I feel, whenever I listen to podcasts, I know that person speaking better than sometimes my own friends, right? So now think about if we can get that fidelity of sound, and then getting the same view on our visual. We're gonna change the way we think and work, and I think they're gonna be. It's so exciting. I mean, what I keep thinking is, what if I'm here in the UK? What if Boris Johnson had a VR set on and see Wuhan in the early days of the outbreak? What would his decisions have been? And so you take those kind of concepts. Ooh. I think they would be much more powerful.
That's a really powerful point. The empathy element of information, of news, even, and relating, and that was a. I'm glad you went there with that one. Bitcoin, or crypto.
Crypto. look, it's to me such an interesting topic. So I'm a big crypto fan. I think there's still a lot of work to be done there. The infrastructure is just being built out, but you know, the reality is it's becoming more and more of an interesting form of finance and solving one of our bigger problems. So, you know, we are just printing money left, right, and center. This is how we're solving every single problem. Bitcoin is not doing that, so you can't do that. And I think this just strengthening that area of finance.
Mm-hmm. What about AI excites you, or yeah, is there something about AI that you still find exciting?
Loads. I mean, I think AI is, you know, it's now it's such a broad term.
It's just ubiquitous now. Yeah.
Ubiquitous now. Everybody needs to sort of have something. But what's going to be interesting is before it was like a few people who sat and they created an algorithm and they solved X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Now it's like, well, hold on a minute. There's a core piece of our technology. We need to monitor it. We need to build it. So there's going to be so many tools built around AI in terms of building that out. I recently sort of invested in a tool that's, you know, just monitoring your machine learning algorithm, right, and your model. But you know, it's expensive to run these things. There's a lot of data involved, and so again, there's a whole bunch of you know, we've seen Databricks and we've seen all kinds of things expand dramatically. So, you know, there's going to be a whole development. You know, we've seen it in DevOps, but we're going to see the same thing in MLOps. AI.
China.
Well, China is probably going to be the most powerful country in the world, right? And I think right now we're seeing that their power is only increasing as, sadly, I think America's fumbling. So, I mean, I was born in the US. I was raised there partly. It's dear to my heart. But I think it's going through a moment, and you know, who knows what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
But it's a tough moment. I think China is probably dealing with our current crisis better than all of us. But of course, there's a lot of things that need to be resolved there, and it's going to change the whole dynamic. We're seeing a Balkanized world here, and that's creating maybe even an opportunity for Europe, because we still retain that sort of neutral zone. I mean, it's crazy to think that Europe maybe be more of the free world than anywhere else in the world. There's nobody. We're not banning things left, right, and center. We're allowing people to come here and work, we're actually allowing U.S. businesses to be here. We're allowing Chinese businesses to be here, and it's going to be interesting. This might be the thing that changes. Whereas Europe was conceived, people thought the European Union was a place that was sort of anti-business. It now seems like very different, very open for global business.
Yeah. Amazon.
An incredible company that is just growing its tentacles left, right, and center. Wonderful to see them come to Sweden. Tough on Swedish e-commerce. You know, people are going to have to pull their socks off and get ready because the big boys in town, and they're just going to go for it. Interesting too, their bets on all sorts of things. You know, whether it's AI, their bets even on office space recently, you know, where they're actually increasing their office space when everybody else is decreasing it. So impressive business.
Yeah. And now that it's, you know, on everyone's doorstep, it is again a kind of 5G is the next one, but it's I preface by saying it's one of those tech-isms where so much has been thought and discussed and talked before anyone ever had a chance to even have their hands on it, that it seems like the conversation's over before it actually began.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting, again, like going back to this other thing where we're very open for business in Europe, and we're very liberal, strangely. I think if companies that were dominating the way that some of the US tech companies are dominating across Europe, if we had a similar situation in the US, I don't think we would have been as welcome. Definitely not in the current regime, but I think in general, people would be much more careful. So I don't know if we're being smart or whether we're being stupid about this, but it's an interesting.
I mean, as an American myself, you made me realize something, which is Europe, because it is a collective of so many personalities, it forces a check and balance system that the U.S. has now exposed its own sort of weakness, where if you get one, really overly charismatic character, it can really be quite a liability very quickly. Where
Totally.
Europe can't really. I mean, you have Boris Johnson or whatever. You have, you could have one type person like that, but just 1 out of 20. Keep the balance.
Yeah, I guess that is one of the benefits. And it also means that we're hurting cats the whole time.
Yeah.
So
well,
we get a lot
what was
more.
previously perceived as a weakness can now be potentially thought of as a strength in a way, for a long-term stability.
But who knows? Maybe America will turn into the same thing. We don't know.
If there will be in America a year from now, is that will be enough for me. I'm now adjusting my expectation levels on America, so it's a painful process.
Well, look, I think America is extremely resilient.
Yeah.
I think they're pioneers.
The people
through.
are, no doubt.
Yeah, so they'll get through this. We'll get through this, and I think who knows, might manifest into something really powerful.
Yeah, I hope cooler heads prevail, because it's starting to get the tension level starting to hit this point where Americans can lose their cool and all. We've had a civil war before, so who knows where it will go. And the media, don't get me started on what their interests and incentives are. So I have assembled 3 startups to pitch you today.
Awesome.
And we get to play a little Shark Tank and watch you digest and absorb the pitch in real time and engage and react with it. So it's a little glimpse for everybody to see what it's like to be in a pitch meeting with you.
Okay.
So I thought this would be fun if you're still up for that.
I'm up for it. Usually I prep before a meeting, just to be clear.
I know. I had a talk with your.
This time I'm not.
I had a talk with somebody on your team about this. About should you have access to the companies in advance to research them? I said, you know what? Here, you know what my answer is, but I want everyone to know, because I live in transparency. So my response was, traditionally the idea is, to have a very gut reaction, but for people, some people work really well in 2nd and 3rd and 4th gear after they've had a chance to really digest and, and then that's where their shining moments come out, and then some people are, they're on the spot and shoot from the hip and that. And knowing you, having had dinner with you, and I know that you're the type that like to really digest and, the brilliance comes out, in 3rd and 4th gear. So, but I want
that's at least what I say. That's what I say.
No, but I know that to be true. But I want to see what your 1st gear is like. So these are,
let's go.
For the people watching at home. He has not seen these before, so you're going to get real honest, immediate reactions. So let's go ahead and bring in the first pitch, Lisen, and it'll take her a second to join here. Ding dong. Hello, Lisen.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you see and hear me?
Yeah, we hear and we see you. Can you please share your screen and let's see.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And this is called DANADS. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes, you are.
Okay, cool.
So are you seeing everything?
Looks great.
Cool. So hi, Mattias, and hi, Tyler, and thanks for having me here. So what I'm going to go through today is why basically DANADS is the publisher's favorite self-service partner, and also what that means.
Oh shoot, I just screwed something up. I'm sorry. What the hell did I just do?
What is being screwed up?
Now you're fine. It's the full screen thing is acting funny, but go ahead.
Okay. So quickly about our company. So we were founded in 2013. So for the last 7 years, we have basically done nothing but building self-service advertising platforms through automation. So we have years and years of experience collectively in the digital advertising world, spreading across several markets, and having great traction at the moment. COVID-19 being one trigger, also recently appointed as one of the top future tech companies in the Nordics by Tech Arena. So we have momentum, and we want to share a bit about that today. So we are the industry-leading provider of self-service advertising platforms. And what that means is this is just a selection of some of our platforms that are already live out there. We're a white label service, which means that Dan Ads is not visible here. Our clients are the sender and the hero of it. Hulu being one of our latest and biggest projects we recently launched. This is really a pioneer within OTT, so stream TV, one of the biggest players in the US. And they've now launched their first self-service tool, which means that an advertiser can log into Hulu, create their account, put in all their booking details, such as target audience, campaign period, pay their ad, upload the actual TV ad, and by whatever, well, everything that Hulu needs to do is basically spend 5 minutes of approving the creative, and then it's good to go and good to be live streamed. So this means that they can accept budgets as low as $500, which really is a great appeal to the small and medium-sized businesses out there. So really exciting project, lots of others that I don't have time to go into, but showing briefly some of our other clients. Haven't lost one single client yet, so we pride ourselves in really providing the best customer service and listening to our customers. And trying to explain briefly what the problem is that we're solving for these publishers is that they are basically stuck in this complex, slow, often manual process in the ad supply chain. So there are a lot of middlemen in there. Everybody wants to take their cut. And bringing your attention to two things specifically. One being that once the ad buyer for a traditional publisher, so Bloomberg, for instance, being one of our clients, an ad buyer would place the order, which would end up with sales and ad ops. They would spend up to 1 to 3 days manually handling that order. And that meaning that they wouldn't accept anything below $20,000 because otherwise it wouldn't even break even. The second part being once it ends up in the other side of the media, of the supply chain, actually only about half, if you're lucky, ends up with the media owner. So there are a lot of cuts of the revenue being stolen along the way. So what we do is basically helping the publishers to remove all these middlemen, create one direct line to the advertiser with this self-service advertising platform, which cuts down that time of 3 days of manual handling down to 5 minutes when they need to basically approve the creative or approve the customer, as much control as they want to have. And in the end, get to keep around 85% of the revenue instead of half or less. So this is something that the publishers really appreciate and why they also often come to us to help them solve their problems. So what's really interesting about the phase we're in now, so historically we've been doing enterprise solutions. So we've been working with big demanding publishers, big clients. The investments have been around $200,000 and over, tailored, both development, tailored pricing models, quite long contracts, which makes our target audience basically the top 50 publishers in the US. So what we've been able to do now, which is really exciting, is basically take all that experience and knowledge from all these demanding clients, boil that down to a more SaaS-like product, and SaaS-like in the sense that it has now the same code base and much more easily replicated, into the plug-and-play version, which enables us to think much more of a mass markets approach. And really capitalize on the momentum we're seeing now, because in COVID-19, a lot of publishers have had to let a lot of their people go. They have to revisit their whole business model, and we help them automate and help them through it. So here we can instead look at maybe 200 publishers within the next 2 years. We can have a simple pricing model, charge $29.95 a month with a rev share. And building on that, also having a professional version for the more demanding clients where we can charge double and maybe giving away more of the rev share. So this is where we're at right now. And we want to really capitalize on that now that our biggest blocker so far has basically been capacity and having a queue of customers that we can't serve. Whereas now this is really opening up for new opportunities and new economies of scale. So we recently closed a round of around 4 million euros, and we're raising capital now, so another 6 million euros during the remainder of the year, and really to take charge and use the momentum that we're seeing at the moment and the incoming stream of customers to open up new offices in London and UK, or in New York and London, and really cement our position in those markets, hire key talents, and be able to invest further in product development. So really exciting times, and by the end, we hope to be a real catalyst in changing this very complicated supply chain.
Cool.
That was the gist of it.
Cool. Thanks for the
Thank
short
you so
version.
much.
Mattias, jump in. What is going through your mind very candidly at this moment?
Yeah, so this is not an area that I focus on. I'll preface with a negative, is that ad tech is a very difficult industry. You know, most venture capitalists have not had a great time in ad tech. It's you know, most people have lost money. Why? Because Google's so powerful, right? So you need, usually the concept is, okay, so you're going to build something great in ad tech. Well, what's your technology and how is it better than Google, right? So that has always been the concept. And I was like, well, look, you know, this is going to be very difficult to do. But what I love about what you're doing, and I must admit that, you know, this is more, it would be more interesting, you know, it's not the size of deal that I would do, but I was like, wow, this is actually pretty interesting, because what you're doing is you're sort of making it very modular and you're getting rid of different players in the market. And you're focusing on a smaller group of potential customers that maybe are not being served. So to me, I think that sounds really exciting, and I would definitely, you know, be looking into this and wanting to know a little bit more about how it really works. And congrats. I mean, it looks like, you know, you have raised money and you've got 80 people on board, and, you know, you've obviously got momentum. Question mark, why you're opening up offices in London and New York. I was speaking actually to an investor in Ukraine, and they have solution providers for their technology coming out of like weird parts of the Eastern Europe, right? So where was it? It was really like I think it was even like Moldova or something, right? But they were selling today in this market. They were not traveling anymore, and they're not pretending that they were based in London. They were just having the video conferencing call, and it was suddenly a level playing field. So I don't know how long this is going to last, but I would hold back in understanding whether you need to spend that money. But, you know, that doesn't stop you from raising money and putting more firepower in terms of penetrating some of those bigger institutions that you want to maybe penetrate in terms of getting your customers. But
sorry to jump in there, but you're absolutely right. That's so far that has really worked for us as well. And basically being based here, and of course traveling a lot before the pandemic, back and forth. But now we see one of the main blockers is also, if we want to be having that mass market appeal, just being in the same time zone really helps. So we have people working nights just to serve our customers. So that has been a constant normal for us to always have dinner meetings, basically. So have a local sales team, have Americans on there. We also have had people, our American customers, saying that we are choosing you because we've had you recommended, and we know that you are the best ones out there right now. But if there would have been an American company doing the same thing that you would be doing, we would be hiring them instead. So basically saying that local presence and being there has really been one key factor that we've seen to unlock like the possibilities for the next step.
Yeah, no, I think it's really cool. I mean, I look at it, and I look at businesses like Wix, you know, that is now worth 18 billion. You know, it's just you move things around and you got a website. Here's like you move things around and you got advertising. You know, same thing with Shopify. Very simple to get your shops up and running, and potentially, by the way, a great place maybe for you to sort of look at customers. I'm not sure. In your presentation too, I would probably spend a little bit of time in explaining your team competencies and, you know, who you are and what you are and why you're the best in the world.
I didn't give her enough time for that.
No.
I got 4 minutes.
Sorry. But that to me would be my next question. But if you just at least 5 minutes and just sort of say, that would be, or not even, sorry, 1 minute and just say, look, this is who they are. This is why they're great. I think would be
great point.
Look, like I said, unusually positive to an ad tech type business. And I think you're onto something. And I hope you get success in terms of speaking to the right investors.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Cool. Well done. Thank you for doing that, Lisen.
Thanks, Tyler.
Yep. I think next, I don't even remember who's supposed to be next. It was either Pierre or Charlie. I believe it's Charlie.
Jumping out now.
Okay.
Bye, Mattias.
Bye, guys.
Hi, very nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Charlie, are you there?
Hi. Yes, I am.
Great. Are you ready?
I am. Should be.
Take it away.
Yes, just sharing my screen here. Should be good. And we're on full screen and it's not half the screen that's shown, but everything.
It's not half, it's 95%. And let me see if I can fix that actually on my end. It's really a weird, I found a weird bug in this app. I have no idea what's doing it. It's Zoom and the streaming app are fighting each other.
It's probably fine. If there's any information missed in the last 10%, I'll be happy to share it.
Try sharing
verbally.
Are you sharing your screen right now?
I am. I should be.
Okay, there it is. Let's see.
We're testing you, Tyler.
I know what the problem is. Hold on 1 second. Let's do it like that. If you give me,
I'm the only one with the big gaming earphones.
That's right. That's right. We go like that. I think we can do it like that. Okay, now this should be better this way.
Perfect. So I'll just start off then.
Yeah.
And you can stop me in the middle if you have any questions, or we'll take them at the end. That's fine by me, whichever. So my name's Charlie Llungman. I'm the CEO at Interactive Product Line, and we're a Swedish-based BCI company founded back in 2002. So a bit of background. We were one of the first companies to develop commercial EEG products when we initially launched Mindball Game. The table you can see on the slide can be found at various science centers across the globe, and have had more than 15 million people play it since its release. And yes, we've counted. So as for throughout the years, we've received thousands of requests regarding a Mindball game to train and play at home, but been unable to deliver due to the product being too expensive to produce until now. Throughout the last 2 years, we've worked hard on developing a solution that enables everyone to train their focus in the comfort of their own homes. This major pivot towards software and consumers is also why we today consider ourselves as a startup. So with the technological advancements during the 21st century, we've seen fast adaptations to a more digital society. Today, almost everyone walks around with a computer in their pocket, and information and news are spread with a click of a button instead of waiting for the evening broadcast. And however great this might be, the trend does come with its consequences. Things like attention span is dropping significantly with every year that passes. Disabilities like ADHD have seen a meteoric rise since the early 2000s. And we at Interactive Product Line are looking to change that trajectory through focused training for all. With the money from this round of funding, we're developing a state-of-the-art EEG headband that will be priced at about half of the current market index. Through our long experience in the industry, we've also seen the do's and don'ts when it comes to hardware, and thus think it's relevant to develop our own. As it comes to the technology, EEG is a method used for reading, analyzing, and graphically presenting the electrical signals from the brain. The method has been used within medicine since the early 60s to identify different mental states, and one of those mental states is that of being focused. To enable it all, we have 2 software components that have already been fully developed. Focus, which is a statistical platform where you analyze your training and also your games within the gaming industry. And then also Focus Play, which is the virtual training ground. Combined, these tools allow users to become aware, understand, and also train their focus. It helps users with making use of their training in their everyday lives, and it also improves the focus and attention span for users to apply. So who is it that's behind all of this? We're a small but capable team of four. Our CEO and founder, Birte, has been with the company since its foundation and has throughout the years gained an unmatched experience within the commercial EEG industry. Eyvind, our lead developer with the company, has been with the company since 2008 and is a solution-minded full-stack developer. And then we have Johan, who has been our on-site 3D artist for over 2 years now. And lastly, myself, who is fresh out of uni with big dreams and lots of optimism. So as for the markets, we're starting off with esports and gaming, mostly because of their easy access to computers and thus enabling us to run our focus game smoothly. Another pull is the amount of early adopters in the market when it comes to new and innovative technology. Secondly, we want to move into education because of the overwhelming need for improved attention span in today's classroom environment. And last but not least, we of course want to bring focus training everywhere, even the workplace. I mean, improved focus can lead to a multitude of positive outcomes, with high performance and efficiency being the most obvious ones. And as for the business model, we're looking to use a subscription-based pricing model. I'm happy to explain more about it after the presentation. And we expect a 10-fold increase in EBITDA over the upcoming 3 years. In this round of funding, we're seeking 500,000 euros at a valuation of 2.5 million. The use of funds will most importantly goes to developing the headbands, and we'd also be able to sustain ourselves towards the point of break even. We'd also like to run extensive marketing and PR campaigns at launch, of course. And I guess that's it. So if you have any questions, feel free.
Alrighty.
Great.
Thanks, Charlie. What do you think, Mattias?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, again, another really interesting company. I definitely probably need it with my, living in the world that you're constantly seeing new things and doing new things. I always worry about my own attention deficit. But actually, to be honest, COVID has been great for that because it's forced me to be in one place and do deep thinking. The issues for me is around the hardware. Hardware is always difficult for investors and for anybody. There's so many things that can go wrong, and so that's usually what people pick apart. And your margins can be very difficult. And production, I've been involved in hardware business before. The rise and fall of various ones, and usually, you think that things like getting a hold of materials like copper or whatever should not be problematic, but they end up being problematic, and where you're producing it and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think just to talk a little bit, sorry for interrupting, but just about the hardware production, I mean, there are other companies out there that are doing EEG headbands, and I think it's quite similar to, I guess, the VR industry. I mean, you need the headband in order to actually get the focus measurements and do the training. But as for our headband, all the components in order to put together an EEG headbands are basically out there. I think what other companies are lacking is that they're trying to do it themselves, and they're always trying to produce their own parts to everything. And I think going the other way and just using the parts that are already out on the market and combining them into one headband that's functioning for the customers, it's a much better approach. And also when it comes to margins and the cost efficiency. Yeah.
I understood how this was fun as a game. I didn't understand as much how it would be interesting, as easily in the sort of education and business space. I understand the concepts, but to me, it was a bit sort of unclear, and I'd like to sort of flesh out, what it really means in terms of having this, and what kind of level of improvements and where you're taking it. So I understand the problem. I think that's great, but so what's the difference? How does it really change? And then, why would people be willing to pay for it? Because sometimes people don't even, again, it's like, how do you create a magical moment? I always think, how does this become a magical moment for a customer where they're like, okay, wow, like I'm like doing X, Y, Z, and that's hard to sort of measure.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to measure. So what we're trying to do with the software is that we've divided it into two parts. The game is the most crucial part, which is the actual training. It's a game that rewards that you play only controlling a ball through a track with your focus. So we're able to isolate your focus and rewarding you when you're actually in a focused state of mind. So thus the user initially, I mean, every person when they try it the first time, they're like, wow, it actually is so responsive. It's like initially responding directly to how my focus is doing and what I'm thinking about. And when you sort of drift away with your thoughts, you also see the focus go down and you fall off the track and etc. And it allows users to actually understand their own focus and also help to consciously control it and bring it out when it's needed. And then what we've done with the platform is for our first market, which is the gaming and esports one, where you can actually see the cause and effect of your focus training and see how it's actually affecting your results within a specific game, whether that be an esports game or a casual game. And we think that through education, I mean, all we need to do is adapt the software platform to measure focus, or one could simply see the improvements by looking at test results. I mean, there's a bunch of different factors that you can measure and see whether or not the focus training is actually doing its job.
Cool.
I think the key in this that you'll continue to struggle with is in live pitch environments where you can put the device on somebody and they can use it and they can personally have the wow experience. That's great.
Yeah.
In virtual situations like this, which you're going to have, no shortage
Continued
of
experience with.
Right, you're going to have to somehow jump that magical bridge and create a story or narrative that gets the listener to feel that wow tingle without actually putting on the device and experiencing it for themselves somehow.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it's a tall order, but
yeah.
it's definitely, But I mean, that's definitely something to look into towards forward future pitches.
But it's about setting up the proposition in the right way, and with the character and the drama, and then how they were able to overcome their PTSD by this, and you make it very personal and relatable. I think that's part of the key is you show why this is so important. Show who really would benefit the most from something like this. Like, I don't know if it's PTSD or people with anxiety or whatever it is, or depression, but and then how.
I mean, what we can say for sure is shortage of attention span and improved attention span is what we can say from other people doing the research within the EEG industry and field in the medical community.
That just doesn't give you the tingly feeling though. When I want to hear a story about somebody who, came back from fighting the Taliban and he has a daughter, an autistic child, and I want to hear some like emotion and how you save the marriage of this family or something, because of one of the person's ability to, that's what I want to.
I'll be back. Yeah, I'll be back within a year's time with that story specifically prepared for you.
Yeah. Well, this is one of those this is where Americans really shine on their ability to craft ridiculous narratives. So anyway, thank you for that, Charlie. It is a really cool product.
And thank you.
I would love to try it myself, and I'm sure you do get that feeling, and I would love to try it next time.
I'd be happy to show for anyone interested.
Cool. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. That was great. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Pierre, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Cool.
Hi.
Can you share your screen?
Yes. Let's see here. That should do it, right?
Yeah, looks good.
All right, cool. First, hello everybody. Mattias, Tyler. My name is Pierre Wallgren, and I'm the CEO of Pumpit, the first neo pawn shop in the world. So, similar to neobanks such as Revolut or Swedish Rocker, we don't have any local offices. We're app and online focused, and I would like to say what differs us from neobanks is that we're truly scalable, both cost-wise and revenue-wise. I'll get back to that. So, let's see. Here we go. All right, cool. a short background of our industry. Most pawn shops are local, one office serving one town. This means that people often know each other, which can be embarrassing in specific situations. This also means that every office needs trained personnel, they need security, they need an A-class location. Sounds expensive. Also, if you need to change your loan, increase or decrease it, or just extend the loan, you need to come to the office, and since most are analog, it's very time consuming. The value of the items can be hard for a private person to estimate. And what happens if the customer, instead of treating it as a loan, actually wants to sell the pawned good at an auction? Will you get market value selling the item locally? I don't know. And last but not least, the interest rates are very high in the industry. We're talking up to 50% interest rate annually. So the Swedish market then, about 2.5% of all Swedes visit a pawn shop every year. The average loans is about 500 euros, and 90% treat this as a loan and actually repay what they borrowed and retrieve their item after a specific time.
Hey, Pierre, can I interrupt you?
So, of course, sure.
I have to imagine that these numbers are changing dramatically as a result of COVID, that like people are going to pawn shops in record numbers around the world at the moment.
I believe so. However, we launched the site 6 weeks ago. We've been developing this site for a couple of years, but we just launched it 6 weeks ago.
Okay.
So, and we're seeing traction already.
There are people, literally hundreds, maybe even hundreds, in Thailand, where I spend most of my time. People are lining up in queues of hundreds long to sell their gold necklaces at gold shops and things like that. So I have to imagine pawn shops are having the best business that they've ever, like they are one of the best businesses at the moment in terms of people's financial situations. And I would have to reimagine a pitch like utilizing that, like just showing the photos of people lining up at these things, or if it's in fact true and there's data around that. Because it seems like you're hitting on something that could be very uniquely timely. Anyway.
I believe you're right.
I
at the same time,
the neobank comparison. Like there's neobanks, they're working great. What about a neo pawn shop? It's kind of a funny beginning. It works, but it's I don't know.
It does work, but they don't have the network effect that we have. Meaning that an extra customer coming into Revolut won't necessarily change the life for existing customers. However, for a pawn shop, new items will be new items on an auction that new customers can buy. So it actually adds value with every customer in every country that we include in the platform.
Sorry again, I apologize for interrupting, but it was just itching in my head that like if there was data around, even if there was some anecdotal data around a dramatic increase, like the e-commerce chart that I showed, where as a result of COVID, there's this huge spike. I have to imagine these numbers are changing dramatically in your favor as a result of COVID, and why not kind of take advantage of it?
I believe you're right. I don't have the data right now to back that up, but I believe you're right.
Okay. Carry on.
All right. Cool. So where do Pump It fit in this whole thing? Well, first of all, the customer enters Pump It via our app or the homepage and order a letter. Of course, free of charge, and the letter will reach them the following morning. Inside the letter is a secure and prepaid envelope where they place their to-be pawned goods, so to say. It's sent both insured and traceable through the Swedish post system back to us. We receive it the following day. We do a final valuation, we take pictures of it, we clean it up, and we offer our customer the maximum amount that they can borrow from us within 48 hours. So 48 hours from them going into the web page, they have an offer. And the customer then chooses how much they want to borrow. So maybe the item is worth 1,000 euros. They can borrow up to 80%, but they can choose to borrow only 40% and save some of it for later. Once the customer chooses how much they want to borrow, they click and it's in their bank account within 5 minutes. Of course, it's 2020 and mobile is key for us. You will find a Puntit app where apps are, and in the app you can see your loan, your pawn goods, pictures, everything, but you can also top up and change. You can pay back, you can top up, you can do basically whatever you want. So one could say it's a mobile wallet, or trying to be at least. So who are we? Please meet our team. We built Puntit from in-house, from scratch. And we carry experience from the pawn shop industry. We carry experience from neobanks and other fast-growing and expanding Swedish tech companies. So it's a complete teamwork. I'm really happy to work with these pros. And yeah, that's Puntit. 4 minutes.
Short and sweet. Okay. Mattias, what's going through your mind at this point?
Yeah, well, look, I looked actually at a pawnbroker called Borrow, B-O-R-R-O, many years ago in the UK. So it was one founded many years ago in the UK. Subsequently, they've raised about $200 million. I think they're based now in the US. So the whole company moved to the US. And most of it is just, you, like you say, you use the money to sort of give you a little bit more collateral. And that's that. I think it was pretty tough. Actually, I thought that they were going to work like you did, Tyler, that the 2008 crisis, I thought they were going to do really well. And I got a feeling he was around then, he was around. So, but it didn't really accelerate. It was really interesting. Many of the offline sort of did and, did well. So I haven't really understood the dynamics of that industry of why we didn't see the acceleration of the growth. But that doesn't mean, by the way, that doesn't mean anything, because Spotify wasn't the first music streaming site. Google wasn't the first search site. It doesn't. Robinhood wasn't the first free trading site. So it feels that this should work, and therefore you should try to break the code and make sure that you make it happen.
Yeah, the why now question, and the best answer Pierre could probably give is, well, back then, the people who visit the conventional person who visited the pawn shop wasn't tech enabled at that time, and now they are, or whatever.
And there's like, we're working remote and people living remote, and like you showed in your update that 35% of e-commerce is now in the UK is online. So, like you say, people don't really like bringing in their watches and pawning them, and definitely now they don't want to go through the hassle of having to deal with the whole health issue of wearing masks and the whole thing that you might need to do to sort of hand in your watch or whatever else you're pawning. So I think it's really interesting. I think it's potentially a super nice market. It looks like like regulatory wise, I guess it's extremely regional. So country by country, you'd have to go at it, because again, what is pawn shops in different countries mean very different things. And because they are highly regulated. I think some countries, it isn't about, when you pawn it, you never get it back. I think the US is a little bit like that. I don't think you can ever get it back. But I'm not sure.
In the US, you can, yeah. You have an option to, basically.
You have an option.
This is one of those things where you'll get very deep into the woods on the regulatory side before you know it, especially as you're going country to country. So similar to... And
the interest rate is also really tricky one, right? And I find that with most financial services, the interest rate is a hard one. What is the appropriate interest rate, to mitigate the risk? And then, how do you, when you become a successful business, how do you have that conversation that actually you're helping customers rather than being a shark? And I think that setting those principles right at the beginning are extremely important, and knowing how you're going to handle that and what you stand for. I think that most fintechs, in my mind, that are in the lending should think about, how how in some ways, you know, they can also be benevolent and giving back in some ways, because it's the right thing to do at certain moments, but it's also, I think, really important to think about what you really stand for as a firm and as a company, because if you're just chasing every single dime in this, which you know, you have to be really careful. I'm not saying you're not. You're going to come, you know, at some point it can get misconstrued and you end up in a bad path.
Like if you get caught on the wrong side of the ethical issue or something.
You get on the wrong side of this one, where you're taking watches from people who are starving and they're trying to feed themselves, because that's what we're dealing with at the moment. People are actually, in the United States, for example, you know, like we're seeing that food stamps are just shooting up. So, you know, like they've pawned their watch, and, you know, so you've taken that and you've charged them a lot of money for it, type thing. So I just think you need to make sure you get that right.
Yeah, correct. I agree fully.
It's there it is. I still think the right way to start that pitch is like I saw images. It was even like not a drone, but like a helicopter shot of a queue of people waiting to sell gold at a gold shop, which is what the Thai version of pawn shops is. They do it all, and they keep all of their net worth in gold bracelets and necklaces and things like that. And people are waiting days to sell their gold. It's anyway.
I think you're right. I think the urgency of the moment is really important to start off with, and knowing why now this is going to be. Yeah, it's not that didn't come off.
This fits too nicely into it, dovetails so perfectly into the why now. And if no one's really done a mobile first version, now that we're in a post, you know, smartphone era, because the one you were referencing was even pre-smartphone era, it sounded like. But
you're probably right. It probably was. I thought it was really cool. I mean, I looked at it a couple of times, but and the numbers weren't perfect, but the concept seemed to me like this has to work. So I definitely believe in it.
There's an unsexiness on this particular element for like your typical investor VC type, where, you know, they don't necessarily aren't jumping, you know, out of bed in the morning to be involved in a neo pawn shop. But that might actually be your advantage as to like some weird moat that has prohibited. It's like trailer parks. One of my dearest friends, and one of my most brilliant friends, is a trailer park tycoon, and he is killing it right now. There's like 40 million Americans can't pay their rent this month. He is in the best business you could possibly be in right now, which is the trailer park business. And again, it's super unsexy, but that's why he's been able to go in there and like become, you know, the trailer park tycoon. It sounds like
I looked at that business many years ago, actually, even before I was in venture, and the payback was incredible. Like the payback, like in terms of like you rent it out, and within I can't really remember now, but it was somewhere between 6 months and 12 months. You've paid back. You've paid. You know, you're on sort of good track to paying back for that trailer.
Yeah,
it's insane.
It's one of the few things that do really well in bad economic times as well. But it's like, especially now, this whole rental market. The stats on this, have you seen these in America with the number of people that can't pay their rent at the moment and are defaulting on mortgages and everything? It's like there needs to be, but that is a startup I would love to do. Not necessarily mobile homes, but like when you have a problem of that scale, I want to get the number right. I believe it's last month, 40 million people are facing eviction, and they need some kind of emergency housing. So there's some huge opportunity there for somebody. I would love to get involved in something like that. But anyway, thank you, Pierre.
Howard, can I just? Oh, thank you very much.
Sure. What you?
Yeah. So I just wanted to touch on the things that we're talking about and how to add to society.
Yeah.
So from day one, we've lowered interest rates in this industry by 30%. So that's one, and I want to lower it by 30% more. Also, if somebody would not to prolong or pay back their loans and we had to sell their pawned good, all the surplus will go straight back to the customer. So we're selling it, we're getting our fees back, but then all the surplus will be back in the customer's account within 5 minutes.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we're trying to do something good within this industry as well.
Yeah.
Throw that in the pitch somewhere.
Yes.
All right. Sure will.
Yeah, it's cool. That could work out. That is one of those sleeper ones that we can look back on and you'll be laughing all the way to the pawn shop.
I agree.
Yeah,
all right.
The Neo Pawn Shop is just I love it has a built-in humor, reaction to that.
It does.
I keep thinking of neon lights the whole time in this pawn shop,
Alrighty. Thank you, Pierre. You can
Thank you very much,
out
gentlemen.
there. And then give me 1 second, Mattias. I have to jump back to my deck for 2 seconds. Actually, no, we can do it the other way around. We can wrap and I can say thank you for jumping in here. It was a pleasure seeing you, and it's a pleasure seeing you being active again. And what a treat for the lucky folks that are able to work with you. What is the best way for people to connect with you?
My email is Mattias@moonfire.com. Send me an email.
Are you mostly in London, or are you bouncing? Are you in Stockholm from time to time, or what?
I'm not traveling. I think this is the longest I have been in the same place almost my entire life.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to be traveling. I don't think that much in the fall. There's going to be things I need to do, but it's going to be minimal. But I want to be in Stockholm. It's important to me. All of kind of the Nordics, to be honest, are really important to me, and I believe in them. So I'm building presence, and I'm also going to be working with a lot of different angels as well. So I think you just have to be a lot more creative in terms of how you work in this new environment. So maybe not physically, but hopefully virtually, I'll still be hovering over Stockholm in a way.
Cool. I'd love to brainstorm with you on that, around how investors are going to manage deal flow and presence in this post-COVID environment and whatnot.
Well, I personally think there's a good solution to it. And I think working together with angels and helping, to me, I think I want to be building a lot of software, and I want to help power those angels as well and make them better. So kind of think of AngelList, but take it even further. And give them the data and the resources. So that's something that I want to be doing, and working with a handful of them, and just saying, okay, so look, you're on the ground, we're talking to each other, we're sharing information across the screen, we know what each other's doing, we trust each other. Let's do some deals together. So I think definitely that's possible, and maybe even more efficient than what we did before.
And it could relate to the little tweet exchange that we had a week or so ago on the functionality of the transparent pitching funnel of sorts. Anyway, we can talk more about that, because I have a developer who would love to engage with something like that.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and it's great to see you, and good to see you nice and healthy and enjoying.
I'm a little too healthy. It's my gym's been closed for the last 7 months or whatever it is now. Anyway, you seem to manage to stay in shape. I imagine it's a Peloton or something like that. So.
Well, I'm lucky. I'm a little bit outside of the UK, so I have outside of London, so I have a bit of space to walk around.
Yeah, it's just too hot here. Anyway, hopefully you'll get down here yourself to see what I mean. But hopefully we'll have dinner again in Stockholm before too long again. So.
Or in Thailand.
Yeah, that would be even better. Yeah, you're welcome here anytime. You know that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Cheers. Thanks, Mattias.
All right, bye.
Cheers. Okay, so kind of rounding out the horn, as we say. There one little announcement on my deck here, if you can see this. Oh no, that's the ash here, and then we've got there was Ash and Mattias, and we did the 3 startups. And so the only announcement is the Antler Demo Day that we were talking about earlier. It is at, you can go see it live. They just had their demo day today, and as Ash said, you can watch all their demo days, and they're doing the best demo days that I've seen. They're really, really strong. That's the URL, demoday.antler.co/Stockholm. You go there. Again, watch the one that they did today. They did one in Sydney a couple months ago on a whole other level from any other demo days I've seen. Really, really strong, even virtually. So check those out, and you can apply. They're becoming almost, I mean, they're very international, and what they really all are about is working with exciting talent who need help, just from the idea stage and assembling the team and all of that. So if that's the stage that you're at, have a look and then feel free to apply. They have kind of open application windows all the time. And that's about it. So next, thank you again to all of our partners, and thank you to Mattias. Thank you to you at home, and we will see you next time on Stockholm Tech Meetup. Cheers, everybody.